Some legends are born, others are made. And, in the case of Captain Rex, that statement is more literal than almost anyone in the Star Wars galaxy. Long before he became one of the Republic's greatest heroes, before he fought beside Anakin Skywalker, before he stood against Order 66, and before he helped bring down the Empire itself, Captain Rex began life as nothing more than a genetic experiment on a distant world hidden among endless storms. His story begins on Kamino, an ocean planet located far beyond the core worlds, a place where towering cities rose above violent seas, a place where rain never seemed to stop, and a place where an army was secretly being created, millions of soldiers, all cloned from a single man, Jango Fett. The galaxy knew nothing about what was happening on Kamino, while the Republic struggled with political corruption and growing tensions. The Kaminoans quietly worked on a project that would change galactic history forever. Within sterile laboratories and endless cloning chambers, identical soldiers were grown, trained, and prepared for a war that had not yet begun. Among them was clone designation CT-7567, the soldier who would become Captain Rex. At first glance, there was nothing remarkable about him. He looked exactly like every other clone, the same face, the same voice, the same genetic blueprint. But from an early age, instructors noticed something different. Rex learned faster, adapted quicker, led naturally. Where others followed instructions, Rex understood them. Where others completed assignments, Rex mastered them. Even among an army engineered for perfection, Rex stood apart. The Kaminoans accelerated clone aging, allowing soldiers to mature twice as fast as normal humans. That meant Rex experienced childhood, adolescence, and military training in only a fraction of the time. Most children spent years discovering who they were. Rex spent those years learning how to fight, how to survive, how to kill. Every moment of his life was dedicated to war. His education focused on tactics, weapon systems, leadership principles, military history, and battlefield coordination. By the time he physically resembled a man in his 20s, he had already spent more hours studying combat than most professional officers ever would. But knowledge alone wasn't enough. The Republic needed leaders, and Rex quickly proved he could become one. As training intensified, Rex was selected for advanced instruction. He learned battlefield command, special operations tactics, strategic planning, and eventually he received ARC Trooper training. Advanced Recon Commandos represented the elite of the clone army. These soldiers operated independently, solved problems creatively, and adapted under pressure. Unlike standard troopers, ARC troopers were expected to think for themselves. For Rex, the training was transformative. It reinforced a truth that would define his entire life. The best soldiers weren't simply obedient. They were intelligent, flexible, capable of making difficult decisions when circumstances changed. This philosophy would later save countless lives, including his own. As Rex continued proving himself, he earned another rare honor. The Jaeg eyes, painted on his helmet with the stylized markings of Mandalorian warriors, a symbol traditionally awarded only to exceptional fighters. For a clone trooper to receive such recognition was almost unheard of. It signaled that Rex had already distinguished himself among thousands of brothers who shared his face. And then the war began. The Clone Wars erupted during the Battle of Geonosis. The Republic suddenly found itself fighting a massive separatist movement supported by countless battle droids. Within hours, the clone army was deployed across the galaxy. The soldiers created in secret were finally unleashed. For Rex, this was his first taste of real combat. No simulations, no training exercises, no instructors, just chaos, explosions, death, and survival. The deserts of Geonosis became a proving ground for an entire generation of clones. Many died before ever firing a shot. Others froze under pressure, but Rex thrived. He adapted quickly to the realities of warfare and earned a reputation for calm leadership under impossible circumstances. The experience transformed him from a trainee into a veteran, and it set him on a path that would place him at the center of galactic history. After Geonosis, Rex received a position within the 501st Legion, one of the most famous military units in the Republic. Its commanding Jedi general was already becoming a legend, Anakin Skywalker. The relationship between Rex and Skywalker would become one of the strongest partnerships in military history. At first, they appeared very different. Rex believed in discipline, procedure, organization. Skywalker preferred improvisation, risk, creativity. Yet somehow they complemented each other perfectly. Where Anakin saw opportunities, Rex saw logistics. Where Rex saw dangers, Anakin saw possibilities. Together, they became extraordinarily effective. More importantly, Anakin treated Rex differently than many Jedi treated clones. To some commanders, clones were assets, numbers, tools. To Anakin, they were people. He learned their names, listened to their opinions, trusted their judgment. That respect mattered, because for most clones, individuality was something they had to fight for. The Republic had created them to be identical. The galaxy often viewed them as expendable. But Anakin recognized their humanity, and Rex never forgot it. The bond between them deepened through countless battles. Each victory strengthened their trust. Each near-death experience reinforced their friendship. By the time that war truly escalated, Rex wasn't simply serving under Anakin Skywalker. He was fighting beside him. Soon, another important figure entered Rex's life, Ahsoka Tano. When she first arrived on Christophsis, Rex wasn't sure what to think. She was young, inexperienced, and suddenly given command authority over soldiers who had spent their entire lives training for combat. The adjustment wasn't easy, but Ahsoka learned quickly, and Rex helped guide her. He taught her battlefield realities, military discipline, practical leadership. Over time, their relationship evolved. Mentor became friend, commander became family. Neither realized it then, but years later, that friendship would save both of their lives. The Battle of Christophsis also introduced Rex to one of the harshest realities of command. Not every enemy wore a different uniform. During the campaign, Rex discovered that a clone named Slick had betrayed the Republic. The revelation shocked him. Clones were bred for loyalty. The idea that one could willingly turn against his brothers seemed impossible. Yet there it was. Proof that clones possessed free will. Proof that they could choose their own paths, even when those choices led them astray. It was an uncomfortable lesson, but an important one. As the war expanded, Rex participated in increasingly dangerous missions. He fought on Tyth, defended Republic positions against overwhelming odds, led rescue operations, conducted special forces missions, and repeatedly risked his life for his men. Unlike some officers, Rex never viewed casualties as statistics. Every clone lost represented a brother, someone he had trained with, laughed with, served beside. This empathy earned tremendous loyalty. The men of the 501st trusted Rex because they knew he genuinely cared about them. And in war, trust can be more valuable than any weapon. One mission would showcase that leadership better than almost any other: the defense of the Rishi Moon outpost, a small listening station located on the edge of Republic space. Initially considered a routine assignment, it quickly became a nightmare. Separatist commandos infiltrated the station and slaughtered most of its defenders. When Rex and Commander Cody arrived to investigate, they found themselves walking into an ambush, but Rex noticed something: a slight inconsistency, a detail others might have missed. The clone greeting them wasn't actually a clone. It was a disguised commando droid. Without hesitation, Rex shot it, saving both himself and Cody. What followed was a desperate battle to prevent a separatist invasion fleet from launching a surprise attack. Working alongside rookie troopers named Echo and Fives, Rex helped secure victory. The mission changed lives. Echo and Fives earned promotions, Rex gained new respect for younger soldiers, and the Republic avoided disaster. Moments like these built Rex's legend, not because he was the strongest soldier, or the fastest, or the deadliest, but because he consistently made the right decisions under pressure. As the Clone Wars entered their most brutal phase, Rex's reputation spread throughout the army. Clones admired him. Jedi trusted him. Enemies feared him. Yet despite all his accomplishments, Rex was still searching for something: an identity, a purpose beyond war. At this point he didn't fully realize it, but the question had already begun forming in his mind. What happens when the fighting ends? What becomes of a soldier who was created solely for battle? For now, those questions remained unanswered. The war continued. The galaxy burned, and Captain Rex marched forward, unaware that the greatest challenges of his life still lay ahead. Challenges that would force him to question everything he believed, everything he served, and everything he was created to be. If the first half of Captain Rex's life was about becoming the perfect soldier, the second phase of the Clone Wars would challenge something far more important: in his identity. The Republic had created the clones for a single purpose: fight, win, obey. But as the war dragged on, Rex began encountering situations that couldn't be solved with military training alone. Questions emerged that no Kaminoan instructor had prepared him to answer. Questions about freedom, purpose, and what it truly meant to be a man. One of the most important moments came on the remote agricultural world of Salukami. During a mission against General Grievous, Rex became separated from his unit after being injured in combat. Wounded and exhausted, he found refuge on a small farm. At first glance, the homestead appeared ordinary: a husband, a wife, 2 children. But there was something extraordinary about the man who lived there. He was a clone, Cut Loquin, a deserter. For most of his life, Rex had viewed desertion as one of the greatest crimes a clone could commit. Every clone was created to serve, created to fight, created to sacrifice. Walking away from that responsibility seemed unthinkable. Yet as Rex recovered, he observed Cut's life. The former soldier wasn't selfish. He wasn't a coward. But because Cut challenged the very purpose of their existence. When Rex finally departed, he made a decision that younger versions of himself never would have considered. He kept Cut's secret. He chose compassion over protocol. And that choice marked a turning point. The rigid soldier was slowly becoming something more. As the war continued, Rex found himself mentoring younger clones. Among the most promising were Echo and Fives. The two soldiers had first earned his respect on the Rishi Moon. Now they had become some of the finest troopers in the Republic. Echo embodied discipline. Fives embodied creativity. Together, they represented the future of the clone army. Rex took pride in their growth. They weren't simply subordinates. They were brothers. That bond would soon be tested on one of the darkest battlefields in galactic history. Umbara. Known as the Shadow World, Umbara was unlike any battlefield the Republic had encountered. Its skies glowed with strange colors. Its technology surpassed much of the Republic's own. Its inhabitants fought fiercely against occupation. And the campaign would become infamous for a different reason. General Pong Krell. When Anakin Skywalker was temporarily reassigned, command of the 501st passed to Jedi Master Pong Krell. From the beginning, Rex sensed something was wrong. Krell viewed clones differently than Anakin. To him, they weren't individuals, they weren't brothers, they weren't men, they were assets. Expendable resources. Numbers on a battlefield. His tactics reflected this attitude. Wave after wave of clone troopers were thrown into impossible situations. Casualties mounted, lives were wasted, and morale collapsed. Rex found himself trapped between duty and conscience. Every instinct told him Krell's decisions were wrong. But military protocol demanded obedience. The conflict tore at him. His entire life had been built around following orders. Yet what happened when those orders became destructive? What happened when loyalty demanded disobedience? The answer arrived in horrifying fashion. Through deception and manipulation, Krell engineered a disaster. 2 clone battalions were tricked into attacking one another, both believing the other was the enemy. Brother fired upon brother. Clones killed clones. And by the time the truth emerged, countless lives had been lost. For Rex, the massacre was devastating. The soldiers lying dead weren't strangers, they were family. Victims of a commander who viewed them as disposable. At that moment, something changed. Rex finally crossed a line he had spent years approaching. He chose to oppose authority. Working alongside his fellow officers, Rex moved to arrest Pong Krell. The decision carried enormous risk. If Krell was innocent, they could all be executed for mutiny. But they acted anyway, and their instincts proved correct. Krell had betrayed the Republic. The Jedi Master had fallen to the dark side and intended to join Count Dooku. The revelation validated Rex's judgment, yet victory felt hollow. Too many clones had already died. Too many brothers had paid the price. Umbara left scars that never fully healed, but it also taught Rex one of the most important lessons of his life. That never fully healed, but it also taught Rex one of the most important lessons of his life. Good soldiers do not blindly follow orders. Good soldiers think, question, and sometimes resist. That lesson would become essential in the years ahead, as if fate were preparing him for something even worse. Not long after Umbara, tragedy struck again. During a mission known as the Citadel Rescue Operation, Echo was believed killed. The loss hit Rex hard. Echo had been one of the brightest examples of what a clone could become. His apparent death reinforced a painful reality. War consumed everything: friends, brothers, dreams, hope. The Republic continued winning battles, but every victory carried a cost. As casualties mounted across the galaxy, Rex increasingly found himself questioning what awaited clones after the war. Would they retire? Would they be allowed to build lives like Cutlaw Quain? Or would they simply be discarded? No one had answers. Not the Senate, not the Jedi, not even the Kaminoans. The uncertainty lingered. And then came Tup. During a battle on Ringo Vinda, something impossible happened. Clone Trooper Tup suddenly turned his weapon on Jedi General Tiplaw. Without warning, without hesitation, he killed her. The entire battlefield froze. Clones didn't murder Jedi. Everything about the act seemed impossible. Even Tup appeared confused, disoriented, broken. As medics rushed him away, he repeated the same phrase over and over. Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. The words haunted Rex. Something was terribly wrong. Medical examinations revealed abnormalities in Tup's brain. The Kaminoans insisted it was an isolated medical issue, a rare malfunction, an unfortunate tragedy. But not everyone believed them, especially Fives. Determined to uncover the truth, Fives began investigating. What he discovered would unravel the greatest conspiracy in galactic history. Hidden deep within every clone's brain was a biological implant, an inhibitor chip. The Kaminoans claimed the chips existed to regulate aggressive behavior. But the explanation didn't add up. The more Fives investigated, the more suspicious everything became. Eventually, he learned the horrifying truth. The chips weren't safeguards. They were control devices. Mechanisms capable of overriding free will, programming clones to obey secret orders. Orders planted long before the Clone Wars even began. When Fives attempted to expose the conspiracy, powerful forces moved against him. The Republic labeled him unstable, dangerous, paranoid. Suddenly, the hero of countless battles became a fugitive. Yet, despite everything, Fives managed to contact the people he trusted most: Anakin Skywalker and Captain Rex. The meeting changed Rex forever. Fives desperately tried to explain what he had learned: the chips, the conspiracy, the hidden purpose behind the clone army. But before he could reveal everything, events spiraled out of control. Commander Fox arrived. Blasters were drawn, and in a matter of seconds, Fives was shot. Rex rushed to his side, helpless, watching another brother die. With his final breaths, Fives tried one last time to warn them. The words came fragmented, incomplete, but their meaning was unmistakable. Something terrible was coming. Something bigger than any battle they had fought. Then Fives died, taking most of the truth with him. The Republic quickly closed the case. Official reports described him as mentally unstable, a victim of paranoia, another tragic casualty. But Rex wasn't convinced. He had known Fives too well. The ARC trooper had never been reckless with the truth. His warnings lingered, echoing in Rex's mind long after the investigation ended. Rather than dismissing his friend's claims, Rex quietly documented everything. The report was buried, classified, locked away. Yet the act itself mattered. For perhaps the first time in his life, Rex officially questioned the system he served. The seed of doubt had been planted, and it would soon save his life. Meanwhile, another mystery emerged: Echo. Despite being presumed dead, evidence suggested otherwise. Separatists somehow possessed intimate knowledge of Republic strategies, knowledge only Echo should have known. Most commanders dismissed the theory. Rex refused to. Trusting his instincts, he convinced Anakin to investigate. The search led them to Skywalker Minor, and the truth was horrifying. Echo was alive, barely, captured by the Techno Union, experimented on, connected directly to machines, transformed into a living computer. His knowledge was being used against the Republic. Seeing his friend reduced to such a condition enraged Rex. The rescue mission succeeded. Echo was saved. But the emotional scars remained. The experience reinforced a growing realization. To the powerful figures running the war, clones were tools, assets, resources. Whether a Republic or Separatist, few truly cared about their humanity. Yet Rex cared, more than ever. As the fine years of the Clone Wars approached, Captain Rex stood at a crossroads. He was still loyal, still committed, still willing to fight. But he was no longer naive. He had seen betrayal, corruption, manipulation. He had witnessed generals sacrifice soldiers for ambition. He had watched friends die pursuing the truth. And somewhere deep inside, he knew Five's warning wasn't over. The conspiracy remained hidden, waiting, silent, patient, moving toward a final command that had been planned from the beginning. A command that would destroy the Republic, destroy the Jedi, and force Rex to make the most important choice of his life. The end of the Clone Wars was approaching, and with it came Order 66. The final days of the Clone Wars did not arrive with warning. They arrived with silence. Across the galaxy, fleets continued their campaigns, armies continued their battles, commanders continued their strategies. No one knew the war was already over. Not yet. But in the shadows of Coruscant, Darth Sidious was ready to end everything. And Captain Rex was standing at the center of it all. The mission to Mandalore was meant to be a victory. A final strike against one of the galaxy's most dangerous fugitives, Maul, once a Sith apprentice, now a warlord ruling from the shadows. The Republic sent Ahsoka Tano, no longer a Jedi, no longer part of the Order, but still a warrior. And she brought with her the 332nd Company of the 501st Legion, led by Captain Rex. Before the battle began, something unusual happened. The clones of the 332nd painted their helmets. Orange markings, modeled after Ahsoka's facial design. It was more than decoration. It was respect, identity, brotherhood. Rex saw it as a sign of how far clones had come. They were no longer just numbers in armor. They were soldiers who chose to honor someone they trusted. The siege of Mandalore was brutal, urban warfare, street-to-street combat. Maul's forces fought with desperation. But Rex and Ahsoka adapted. They coordinated flawlessly. Two commanders operating as one mind. Eventually, Maul was captured. The mission succeeded. And for the first time in a long time, there was a moment of peace. But peace in war is always temporary. While the Republic fleet carried Maul in custody, the galaxy changed in an instant. Chancellor Palpatine issued a command, a transmission that spread across every clone network in existence. Order 66. At first, Rex didn't understand what he was hearing. The words triggered something deep inside him. A pressure, a compulsion, a command buried in his very biology. Execute all Jedi. The order took hold immediately in most clones across the galaxy. But Rex fought it. For a brief moment, his mind split in two. One voice was his own, the other was not. Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. Good soldiers follow orders. Tears filled his eyes. His hands shook. And for a moment, he raised his weapon toward Ahsoka Tano, the person he trusted most, the person who would become his family. But something broke through. A fragment of memory. Fives, the warnings, the conspiracy, the truth buried on Kamino. Through sheer willpower, Rex resisted long enough to speak. Find fives. That was all he could manage, but it was enough. Ahsoka understood something was wrong. She acted immediately. She escaped, and Rex lost control. For a short time, he became what he was designed to be. A weapon, a hunter, a soldier obeying a command he did not understand. But Ahsoka did not give up on him. She returned. She fought through the wreckage of the fallen Republic ship, and she captured Rex without killing him. What followed was something no clone had ever experienced. Ahsoka removed the inhibitor chip. Surgically, from Rex's brain. The process was painful. But when it was over, Rex was himself again. For the first time in years, the silence in his mind returned. The compulsion was gone. The order was gone. And what remained was horror. He remembered everything. What he had almost done. What his brothers were doing across the galaxy. The Jedi were being exterminated, and clones like him were the ones carrying it out. Rex broke, not as a soldier, but as a man. The Republic had fallen. The Jedi were being wiped out, and the clones had been used as tools of betrayal. Then came the next tragedy. Maul escaped, and in the chaos, the Republic's ship began to crash. The final moments of the Clone Wars ended not with victory or defeat, but with survival. Rex and Ahsoka escaped the wreckage, but the galaxy they knew was gone. The Republic had become the Empire, and the clones were now expendable. Declared dead in official records, Rex disappeared into the outer systems. A ghost of a soldier who no longer had a war. But even after everything, Rex did not stop being a soldier. He became something else. A rescuer, a protector, a man determined to save his brothers, because not all clones were free. Most still carried the chips, still obeyed the order, still served the Empire without question. Rex could not accept that, so he fought back in the only way he could, quietly, secretly, one clone at a time. He built connections with smugglers, outlaws, survivors, anyone willing to help. Among them were individuals like the Martez sisters, who helped move fugitives across the galaxy. Each rescued clone was a victory, each removal of a chip, a rebellion against the system that created them. But Rex was not alone for long. He would eventually reunite with old allies, including Echo, now part of Clone Force 99, the Bad Batch, genetically different, but still brothers. Together, they learned the truth had spread further than they imagined. The Empire was replacing clones entirely. Stormtroopers were taking their place. Disposable soldiers replaced by new disposable soldiers. History repeating itself in a new form. Years passed. The galaxy changed. And Rex, along with fellow clone survivors like Wolf and Gregor, eventually disappeared from Imperial records entirely. They lived in exile. On a forgotten world, a mobile Attay converted into a home. War machines turned into shelter. They hunted for survival, and tried to live with memories that never faded. But even in isolation, the galaxy eventually found them again. the rebellion, Ahsoka Tano returned. This time as an agent of something larger, a growing resistance to the Empire. She sent a message, encoded, hidden, a call for help. At first, Rex did not respond. Fear had taken root in one of his companions. But eventually, fate intervened. The Ghost crew arrived, Kanan Jarrus, Ezra Bridger, heroes of the early rebellion. At first, Kanan did not trust Rex. He remembered the Clone Wars. He remembered Order 66, and he remembered clones as enemies. But trust was rebuilt slowly. Through action, not words. When Imperial forces attacked, Rex fought alongside the rebels, not as a relic of the past, but as a commander still capable of leading. In that battle, something changed. Rex was not just surviving anymore. He was fighting again, for a cause that mattered. When the Ghost crew left, Rex made a decision. He would join the rebellion, not as a weapon of war, but as a soldier choosing his own fight. Years later, that decision would carry him to some of the most important battles in galactic history, including Endor, where the Empire's final weapon, the second Death Star, would be destroyed. Rex fought alongside rebel forces on the ground assault, a soldier who had once been created to enforce order, now fighting to destroy it. And when the battle ended, the Empire began to fall. But Rex's story was not defined by the fall of empires. It was defined by survival and choice. He had been created to obey, but he chose to resist. He had been designed to be identical, but became individual. He had been built for war, but learnt compassion. And in the end, Captain Rex was not remembered as a clone, not as a number, but as a man who proved that even the most controlled life can still become its own story. A soldier, a brother, a leader, and a survivor of the most important war in galactic history. His legacy is not just written in battles, but in the lives he saved, the brothers he freed, and the future he helped build. Because Captain Rex was never just part of the Clone Wars, he was one of the reasons the galaxy survived them.